caindo.
Well, I went to Kawasaki today because they were having a demo day because I wanted to ride the H2, see what they're like, what they're all about. And I got there and they were like, oh, it's next week. So I got my weeks screwed up. Welcome to the channel, everyone, by the way. I keep forgetting to do intros, I just get straight into it. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's a bad thing. Who knows? So I'll just treat this as a camera mount test day, because I'm using the new 4K camera with a new mount that I purchased, which is a little bit more slimline than the other mount I was using. Feels a lot better with the wind, so I'm thinking I got it set up all right. We'll see how it goes anyway. I'm gonna see if I can take some back roads home, just because I'm sick of looking at the same shit every day. And I've got video stabilization off to give myself a bit of a wider screen, so if it's a bumpy video experience I apologize, but you know, this is all testing and whatnot. I'll still put the video up even though it'll probably be an annoying quality video, but you know, I'm still running 1080p at 60 frames per second, just with stabilization off, because the stabilization on the Sony cameras crops the image, and I don't want a cropped image. The cool thing about this camera is that, like, the slow-mo setting for this one, like on the old camera it was 720, 120 frames per second. This one's, excuse me, this one's 720 by 240 frames per second. But I think I need to get a much bigger memory card, because recording at that many frames, it actually kills a lot of memory. So I don't get as much record time. It's surprising, like, how much of a difference it makes, because I guess it's generally like you may as well double the data amount. So whatever 720 is times 2 is the data, is the resolution that you're technically recording at. I've got no idea where I'm going. I'm pretty sure I've been down this road, around in this area before. I just don't remember how I got out of it. Woo! You got a bit squirrely. Fuck, this bike is amazing. I really wish I got the video from a couple of weeks ago. Ah, that would have been freaking epic. But in the meantime, yeah, I'm pretty sure I came down here last time and I had to turn some freaking weird way. Anyway, but in the meantime, this just gives me a chance to test video settings and whatnot. I'm just gonna check out what I wanna, what settings I want, and so then that way. No, she's a fucking dead end. Pretty sure I did that last time as well. That way I can test what settings I want when I do an actual high speed run. Yeah, buddy! I had to short shift because this thing just wheelies on first gear every time. As soon as you get over half the RPM range, it just fucking see you later, front wheel. It's all dead ends. Actually, I think I know this area. I have been here before. I'm pretty sure this returns to the main road, theoretically. To the A3, possibly. But yeah. So far, the update on the Xdiavel, I was trying to fit, which I haven't released the video yet, I was trying to fit these crash protection frame sliders that I purchased on Amazon, which came from China, and they didn't fit. That one was longer than the other, which they said, oh no, that should fit. It doesn't. The bolt holes are exactly the same on both sides of the bike, so why would you need one longer, one shorter? There's no extra shit on one side of the bike that needs more protection than the other. So that would look absolutely ridiculous. And the main reason, like, yes, the crash protection would have been great, but the main reason I was buying them for the added benefit of having crash protection was to have another camera mounting area on the bike that didn't require me to mount to a painted area. Because I do know that, right? Because I don't want to scratch up the paint on this bike. I know it's going to be stupendously expensive to respray this bike if I ever have to. So I'm going to protect the paint as best as I possibly can. And then I told the guy that I bought it off, who was a Chinese dude, who actually surprisingly had a lot of very good English, mind you, that I would like to return it because they're incorrect. He was saying they're correct, and I said no, they're not. So we had a bit of back and forth. He was trying to tell me that they were correct. I was telling him they're not. The bolt is too long, it sits too far out, and then he sends me a picture of one side of the bike going, it should fit like this. And I said, mate, it fits like that on one side of the bike. On the other side, it doesn't fit like that. So, you know, I'm the one freaking fitting the bloody thing. I know what the bloody hell I'm talking about here. It's not like I've never done this job before. Not to mention I'm freaking previously a technician, so, you know, fitting parts to vehicles is what I used to do, and I used to do it before I was a technician, so, you know, you don't exactly lose your knowledge all of a sudden, all because you buy an Xdiavel and because some Chinese guy is telling you that you're wrong. But then I was like, oh, I want a refund, and then he was trying to do the whole, oh, if you like the item, I suggest you keep it because it's going to cause us a lot of problems and then you a lot of problems having to send it back and cost us a lot of money. And I was like, yeah, I want my money back. Anyway, then he goes, oh, I'll offer you $40 if you keep it, then you can give it to one of your friends. I was like, what is wrong with you? How many people do you think I know own an Xdiavel, for starters? Like, this guy is just freaking such a bullshit artist. Anyway, he's fucking carrying on, and then next he comes back to me and again saying, oh, sorry for the inconvenience, but would you please accept $80 refund and you keep the item? So I paid $114 for this item. He's offering me $80 and I can keep the item. I had to clarify with him, and he's like, yes, that's correct. And then I was like, okay, this sounds shifty. Why is he doing this? So I went on Australia Post. I calculated the cost of me to send it back to see how much it would cost me. It's actually quite a lot if I use standard post. If I use economy, not so bad, but I want a tracking number. So I'd have to use standard. Where am I? Actually, I should probably... But, alright. I need to fix my lens up because it keeps fogging up. I gotta polish it too to get all the scratches out. seems like a main road, so I'll go up here. But anyway, where was I at? Oh yeah, so he offered me that. So I called up. I went through the returns policies and procedures for Australia Amazon, and then they had something in there for if the item meets a certain criteria, you would get free postage. You know, and I couldn't find anywhere where I could find out whether or not this item qualified. So I called up Amazon, and I was speaking to this nice, I'm assuming Asian lady named Anna. I know a lot of Asian ladies named Anna. Must be a thing. Actually, I think I've been here before too. Oh, that's Guildford. Yeah. And what was it? Yeah, so I was talking to them, and she went and got assistance from a supervisor to figure out what was going on, and they said, and then she came back to me and she goes, I got good news for you. Because of the circumstances, once you purchase your postage, you will have to upfront the cost for postage, but you give us a copy of the receipt and we will credit you to the account that amount. And I was like, beautiful. So I went back to the Chinese guy, and in the nicest possible way, which I didn't say it this way at all, but it was basically how he would have copped it, was like, shove your $80 up your ass, I want a full refund. Yeah. So that cut it short and sweet. He was like, immediately he processed the refund, not the refund, the friggin' what you call it, he gave me the return slip that you have to put on the outside of the box. I have really no clue where I am right now, but anyway, I might have to pull my GPS out to figure out what's going on. And yeah, then he said in the email, once we receive the items, I'll have one of our technicians check over the item to make sure there's no damage or modifications. When we've deemed it that the item has not been damaged or modified, we will then process your refund. And I'm like, So you've already got the photos of the item beforehand that I gave to you. And yet you want to try this bullshit. So I'm thinking they're just trying to be shifty, right? Because he's already trying to be shifty. So I've taken a video of the items where I turn it around, show that there's no damage. I've also taken photos of the packaging that I used and how it's been packaged, and then using the original packaging that they gave me. So therefore, if they try to turn around to me and say, oh no, the item's damaged, you're not getting a full refund, I'll be like, I'll be taking it to Amazon and then filing a complaint and saying the item was indeed in perfect condition, so don't bullshit me, give me my money. This looks familiar. I probably have been, oh yeah, I have been here before. I came out this way once ages ago. Fuck, there's a lot of places in Sydney that I've been, but I don't actually remember how to get here or what the names of the places are. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I went down this way. We'll find out anyway. Oh, this bike around roundabouts, man, is perfect. The auto off, I figured out how it works, so I'm pretty sure it runs off of a certain amount of degrees that you that you lean, because I'm pretty sure it runs on the gyro of how far the bike's leaned over. So, you know, if you go around a small corner and you don't need to lean the bike that much, the auto off of the blinker is what I'm talking about here, probably won't shut off. But if you actually have to lean the bike and come back upright, then the gyro picks up that yes, you have cornered, it's time to switch the blinker off. Yeah, buddy. This bike is still so exhilarating. The amount of wheelies I've popped on this thing, I'll be surprised if I come a couple of years down the track that I haven't got chipped chrome off my forks. My mate had that with his R1. Kept popping wheelies and coming down too hard. It just popped a wheelie again. Fucking, what a wheelie beast. I swear everything Ducati is just a wheelie beast. Because that's all I hear in videos is, Pop's wheelie so hardcore and all this sort of stuff. Like the Monster and like the freaking, what do you call it? Oh man, my brain's fried because I'm too busy having fun. And the freaking super naked one, I can't remember the name of it now. The Street Fighter, yeah, the Street Fighter that has the V4 motor in it. I reckon that thing would be a wheelie monster. You switch everything off, man, that'll be hectic. I remember it was funny because I went on the ride with my mate and I popped a wheelie, but I come down and my hand twitched the throttle again. So I ended up going up for a second wheelie that I was not intending. It was funny after the fact, it was scary when it happened. What a fucking beast bike. I'm so glad I have this bike. It's the best thing in the world. And it's so comfortable. I haven't really done much to this bike yet, which is surprising. Usually I just go straight into it. I'm still waiting for my front axle slider to come. They messaged me the other day, they say it's still on the way, so hopefully that's pretty straightforward. It looks to be pretty straightforward, the same as what it was for my ZX, which was just two little nubs and a bolt that goes through your axle nut. So that seems pretty self-explanatory. Will I try to get frame sliders again? Maybe somewhere down the track, but you know, I'm not going to opt for getting them from China again. Fuck that. I ain't got time to dealing with their shit. I'll just pay the extra money like later, not now, because I got other things to worry about. Like the fact, this is something no one knows. Me and my wife are now in the process of trying to have a kid, so that's a thing. Unfortunately, we have to do it IVF way, so it's costing us a damn bloody fortune because our age and freaking circumstances that happened. What's this? The Hume Highway? I know where I am. Fuck yeah! I knew if I just travelled in the same direction for a long enough time, I'd come to somewhere I actually knew. Oh, shite. I need a hock a loogie, but you can't do that in a helmet. I made that mistake years ago in one of my old videos. I think I did that in my old video. No, maybe not. Where I hocked a loogie and I went to spit it, forgetting that I had a helmet on. And guess what happened? The loogie ended up on the inside of my helmet. Stupid me. Because it was, it was just back. Oh no, this was before I was filming. Because I had the Hyosung GT650 back then, GT650R, which was a pretty badass little learner bike. Man, I don't like that bike was fucking mad for a freaking learner bike. I recommend anyone that's getting a learner permit, get yourself a Hyosung GT650R, preferably a new one, because you know people are selling ones that have 20-30,000 Ks on it for like $4,000 when you can just buy a brand new one for $2,000. Why deal with someone else's crap? Just front up the extra $2,000. It's not much. You get a brand new vehicle. It feels great. No modifications done that are actually bad for it, because you know most learner riders, they think they know shit, or they get told shit from their friends that think they know shit, and then you're going to have to deal with that headache. Plus all the new ones are fuel injected, so you get the benefits of having better fuel economy. And a much more reliable startup. Although on cold days they have a tendency, if you put an aftermarket slip on, which I did, sometimes they conk out on first start because they run them, according to my my tuner, they run them quite lean. Oh, Jesus. Come on, mate, go. These are all the way back here on the Hume Highway, fair ways out. Yeah, so they run them quite lean, and you have to obviously retune them. But I didn't have any issues. Like, you know, the funny thing is, like, people think, oh yeah, you got to have a high flow filter in. Don't even bother. It's like, I had the standard filter in and a race exhaust on that higher sung, and it performed beautifully. It topped out at about 222 kilometers an hour was what it was when I looked at the clock. They won't do much better than that unless you change gearing, I suppose, but even then you'd be struggling. But then I took it for a service and the guy replaced the filter and he goes, oh yeah, I gave you a high flow filter. And then I was struggling to hit 180 kilometers an hour. Are you fucking serious? I lost power. Clearly because the bike wasn't tuned for it, but I lost power probably because the engine's not, I don't know, maybe it's a difference in pressure because you got so much more air going in than, you know, however the exhaust is set up, probably the velocity is not good enough to create a scavenging effect. I don't know exactly how it happened, but all I know is the bike was suffering big time after that point. So do yourself a favour, don't get a high flow filter. It's not worth it. Even on this bike, I've got the exhaust ready to go. It's ready to go. I can't wait. All I'm doing, update on that bike, mind you. All I'm doing is I'm waiting for my tuner. Because the options are you get a power commander or ECU flash. I want an ECU flash, which is actually cheaper in the long run, and it's programming the ECU directly, so you don't really have much issues later on down the track, and you can the tuner can control a lot more with the bike and monitor a lot more because the ECU is looking after it. And so that's the thing. And Christ almighty, would you get out of the way? What was I saying? Yeah, so he's got this tuning program that he uses for all his bikes, dynos and whatnot, that can flash the ECU. But because this bike is so new, he's waiting for, this guy has codes to unlock these ECUs, and he's just waiting for the guy from the software company to source these codes from Italy, so then that way we can unlock the ECU and tune it. So I chased it up last week. It's been a couple of weeks, well probably like 3 weeks since that process started. I still haven't done the base run to see what this thing makes yet, so I've got to get that done, and I'll film that because of the deal I made with Van Diemen. I want to film it for them so then they can get a gist of what a bike like this makes beforehand and what a bike makes like after it. And then I'm going to put the exhaust on, take it over there on either like the back of my ute or in a trailer or whatever, so obviously I don't run it lean, and then get it tuned and then get that run done and do a comparison. Maybe it'll make a lot more power, maybe it won't, who knows. But the one thing I am not changing, which brought me to this little update, is the air filter. And people might say, Brian, why? People might say, why? Why wouldn't you change the air filter when you're putting on a high performance exhaust on it? I'll tell you why. Because I watched a video recently where they did an actual proper scientific test using a machine that was designed to test filters and how well they filtrate and how much airflow they get and all that rest. And yes, high flow air filters do produce a lot of air, a lot of extra air. But the problem is, they start to lose that air efficiency the more dust they accumulate, and they actually drop off dramatically the more the more dust that they accumulate, much more than a stock filter. A stock filter basically pulls the same amount of air in a bit of a flat line. So even though they don't produce as much, they don't have the ability to pull through as much air as the other ones. They're a lot more efficient. They're a lot more they basically are consistent the entire way, regardless of how dirty the filter is. So the graph was basically like there was only like a little bit of a decline in performance once the dust entered the filter, and this is like 100% scientific. Like, these guys even measured the amount of dust particles they were punching into every single filter, and over what time that it happened, and blah 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 blah. So, you know, they had a lot of statistics to make this as even as possible. You know, I think it's about as even as you're ever going to get in that sort of a test. Anyway, but then you got the K&N filter, which, you know, everyone knows K&N as being a high performance filter. And the performance was great in the beginning, but as soon as the dust starts hitting it, it drops off dramatically to actually being worse than the OEM filter. And you know what, I travel around Sydney a lot, so there's not a huge amount of dust in the air, probably like most cases. But I go to the country, which there is dust everywhere. So for me personally, it's not worth the risk for an extra possible 2 horsepower or something along those lines. It's not. This is a $30,000 vehicle, and to replace the motor on it, I can't imagine how much that would cost. Probably like 15 grand, 16 grand. Who knows? But for 2 horsepower, you think I'm going to risk that? Nah, sorry. For what? This thing is already a wheelie beast. It's already more power than, like, got more balls than I can technically handle. Why on earth would I risk damaging my bike for a couple of extra ponies? Like, 2 horsepower, it's not really going to matter, to be honest. For those people that are putting their vehicles on a racetrack, and you know, every horsepower counts to them, or on a drag strip where, like, you know, the vehicle's going to be sitting at really high RPM all the time, sucking in as much air as possible. Yeah, it's reasonable for them, but for everyone else, like, you really just don't need it. Unless you're looking for induction sound, there's no point. And I don't need it. I'll have a fucking awesome exhaust sound, and that's what I want. I hear the induction sound on this bike already, so I don't really need any more induction sound. What I want is noise from the exhaust. I don't want noise from the freaking induction. And I'm not going to risk the motor of this fucking absolute beast, because the other thing is how much dust gets past the filters, and the K&N filter performed the absolute worst at stopping dust. It was, what was it? I think it was 8 or 9 times worse than an OEM filter. So, you know, if you're running that filter, you buy a new car or new bike, you put a K&N filter on it, give it a couple of years, you've probably dusted your motor in a dusty environment. So it's not worth it. And the only other option I can see as to why you would use a high flow filter is if you're boosting, because OEM filters, because they're so weak, I would say, they're not built very strong, they wouldn't last in a boosted environment, because the obviously the turbos or the superchargers, they create so much pressure that they would more than likely fucking get in the neutral, you bastard. They would more than likely collapse or destroy the OEM filter. So those cases, yeah, you'll have to have a high flow filter because they are built a lot more strongly. They are built with really strong glues to hold them in place, and they've got mesh as well, like stainless steel mesh that holds them in place. So that would be a reason to get them. But you know, for a naturally aspirated motor, unless you're looking for an induction noise or a growl, like a growler kit for a fucking V8 or something, there's no point. If you're just buying it for sound, that's fine, but for performance, if you want the best performance from your vehicle, no point. There's not really any benefit to it, really, that you're ever going to fucking notice on the street anyway. Just stick to an exhaust, get a tune, done. Can't ask for anything more than that. Just a good performing, designed exhaust, and just drop the weight, especially on a motorbike. If you can drop, oh Jesus Christ, if you can find a way, say through, you know, carbon fiber wheels and bits and pieces, lighter weight materials like titanium exhaust systems and whatnot, if you're running like a stainless exhaust system or something that's really heavy, it has lots of cats in it like this one does. It's got 2 cats in it now thanks to the Euro 5 standards. What a dick move on the Euro part. Yeah. So that's why this bike is a lot quieter. What the fuck, man? Seriously? Really? You're really not driving a truck, mate. Yeah. One thing to do with my camera, I'll just change the subject for a bit. My throat's getting a bit sore from all this talking. In 4K, friggin' hell, it drains the batteries big time. Like, I think I was filming for probably like 15-20 minutes and battery was dead. So that's going to be a problem. So I'm hoping in 1080 that it still has decent battery life and that it's still running at the moment. I don't know how charged this battery was to begin with. It said full on the side of the screen, but I don't know if it was 100% charged. It was probably like 90 or something. So whether or not I actually get a proper idea as to how charged this is. Come on, mate, Jesus Christ. Let's go. This bike is the best bike in the world. I'll tell you one bike I would love to test ride and go check out. But the H2SX is something that I'm testing out next week. Which will be awesome. But, you know, if I'm going to get another bike in the future sometime, I want something that's like basically what I wanted my WR for. Something that could be on-road and off-road at the same time. But the WR was so uncomfortable. It was like having a pencil up my ass. So I have had a keen interest, obviously not now because I'm paying this bike off and then I've got to have a baby and then probably multiple babies and then buy a house. Maybe then I can look into having an off-road bike. My mate wants to get a multistrada. That would be fucking awesome, but I find those bikes would probably be a little bit too heavy to do much of the off-roading that I would like to do. And one bike I found a keen interest in was the Triumph Scrambler XE, the really tall off-roader. I went in when I was in Kawasaki today. They had one there, and everyone was complaining how tall they are. Man, they're not tall. My WR was tall. That thing, that would be perfect for me. Perfect height, comfortable, I could flat foot it. Man, I want to take that thing for a test ride. Oh man, there's so much fucking people in my way. Can't even have a decent ride. Oh, Jesus Christ! What a fucking beast of a bike. Oh. Fucking bumps in that road, man, freaking jarred me like a pogo stick. Oh man, this thing's gonna sound like absolute menacing with that exhaust on it. I can't keep the front wheel down, it's just impossible. Catches! Yeah.